Hey there, Notus foodies. Today I'm going to walk you through how to make these delicious, fluffy, airy cookies that will put you in the mood for this gorgeous fall weather. So first thing is first, we're going to prep for our ingredients. After you prep for your ingredients, we're going to start with the gluten-free flour. We're going to sift the gluten-free flour, 1.5 teaspoon baking powder and 1 teaspoon baking soda and 1 teaspoon salt. If your butter is salted, take away that salt. Also, if you want your cookies to come out a little bit thinner on the thin side, because these cookies are going to be cakey, they're going to be a little bit fluffier and thicker. So I would lessen maybe the baking powder. Instead of putting 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder, just put 1 teaspoon. After we sifted our flour and we whisked the baking powder and the baking soda and the salt together, we are going to either put, if you have pumpkin pie spice, you can just add that. Pumpkin pie spice is only 2 teaspoons, but if you don't have the pumpkin pie spice, then I would make my own. So the ingredients for the pumpkin pie spice is ginger, nutmeg, allspice, cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom. Now, honestly, I usually eye things, I don't really measure. But say ginger, I would put like about 2 teaspoons, nutmeg 2 teaspoons, allspice 1 teaspoon, cinnamon is about 2.5 teaspoons, cloves 1/8. And cardamom is about also 2 teaspoons. I like to make my own pumpkin pie spice just because I like to play around with the ingredients. I love to actually put more ginger and cinnamon. But again, if you have pumpkin pie spice, then all you have to do is just put 2 teaspoons of that. After we've added all the spices, we're going to whisk all that together. Make sure it's all blended in. So after we've done whisking, we're going to set that aside. And then we're going to get a hand mixer or a stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment. We're going to cream the softened butter and both sugars together on medium speed until smooth. That would take about 2 minutes. Make sure your butter is at room temperature. This helps with the consistency of the recipe, but also it bakes well. It bakes better. We're going to cream them until everything is smooth and blended. We're going to make sure that we don't over whip the butter and the sugar, just because it's going to put too much air into that and it's going to make your cookies a little bit too fluffy. So just make sure it's only about 2 minutes. When our butter and sugar is blended well and smooth, we're going to add the egg. We're going to mix on high until combined. It's going to take about 1 minute. Then be sure to actually scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl as needed. And then we are going to add the maple syrup, vanilla, and the blotted pumpkin. Before you're ready to bake, make sure you take that pumpkin puree and you're going to put it in a bowl, and you're going to put actually a paper towel underneath it to make sure it absorbs all that moisture, because we don't want to put too much moisture into the cookies. So you put a paper towel underneath, and you can put one on top as well, and just maybe give it like about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, to make sure all that moisture is being absorbed. After we add the maple syrup, the vanilla, and the pumpkin puree, we are going to mix on high until combined. Mixture will look a little curdled, that's okay. Honestly, baking is so relaxing, and I love watching the paddle just going round and round and combining ingredients and making things smooth, and it's something that I think everyone should get into just for like relaxation. I wanted to do a bit something extra. You don't really have to do that. I did add fresh ginger. You don't really have to add fresh ginger if you don't want to. You can just put that 1/4 teaspoon of ginger, the ground ginger, if you don't want to put fresh ginger, but I did put fresh ginger just because it enhances the flavor. And I also added orange zest just because the flavors of orange zest and ginger and brown maple syrup is just heaven, you know? So if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You can take it out. I used about 3 oranges to make the orange zest. Then we are going to add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. We're going to mix it on low speed until combined. I usually like to put the flour slowly in, because if you try to put all the flour inside, you will have a huge mess and you will lose a lot of that flour. You scoop it little by little. Just you have to be patient, and it's better. It mixes better. After each time it's blended, just bring in the spatula and just scrape down the sides to make sure that everything is actually mixing together and everything is blending together. The dough will be sticky and it will be thick. After I was done with this, I actually chilled it in the fridge for a day or two. You can chill it for 30 minutes if you want, for an hour, a whole day. I chilled it for 2 days. It wasn't really supposed to be 2 days. I got busy the next day, but I wanted to chill it for at least a whole day. Oh, I also added cranberry into this. Cranberry and orange zest. Oh, it really is amazing. And the orange zest just makes things pop out more. It makes the flavor pop out more. And orange and cranberries go so well together. After we are done combining the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, we are going to fold the cranberries in with a spatula. We are not going to do it with the paddle. We're not gonna put any more air into the dough. Again, these cookies are going to be very soft and sticky. That's the consistency that we're looking for. Just make sure that you do chill the dough a little bit. These cookies are gonna actually resemble kind of like a scone. They really are delicious though. So after you chilled it for half an hour or for an hour or a day or two, you are going to get a scoop. That's going to be like 1.5 tablespoons. That's just the perfect size for a cookie. You're gonna have a parchment paper or you're gonna have a mat. I usually use a mat. Each cookie is going to be 3 inches apart. This way, when they start spreading in the oven, they don't stick to each other, or they don't kind of like melt into each other. The reason why I say chill these cookies is because it will help you when you are rolling them. If you just bake them right away, they're going to be a little bit difficult just because it's going to be too soft and sticky. So it's better to chill them, so when you take them out, you have a better, you can handle them better. Make sure you've preheated your oven to 350 like an hour before you've started baking. So we're going to put them in the oven for about 14 to 15 minutes until the edges appear set. The centers will still look soft, that's okay. When you put them on the rack to actually cool down, they will still be baking, so that's okay. If you need more than 15 minutes, you know your oven, that's on you. Just pay attention to them. In the meantime, we can actually make the icing. We're going to use a handheld or a stand mixer fitted with a paddle or a whisk attachment. We're going to beat the cream cheese in a medium bowl on a medium-high speed until smooth and creamy. So we're going to put the butter and the cream cheese together, and we are going to actually blend them until they appear smooth and well blended. After we cream the cream cheese and we blended in the butter, we are going to add the confection sugar, maple syrup, and a pinch of cinnamon. About maybe 1/8 teaspoon. I go heavier. I'll put more a little bit, it's fine. I added actually vanilla bean extract, so it gave it these little vanilla bean dots. You don't really need it if you don't want to. Then you're gonna beat it on low speed until smooth and creamy. I also added orange zest as well, just because I'm like obsessed with orange zest. So, and especially with these flavors. After we take it out of the oven, we make sure that we put the pan on the rack for 10 minutes because it's still baking. But then after 10 minutes, you take out the cookie from the pan and you're gonna put it on the rack for another 10 minutes to make sure there's no steam, there's nothing, it's cooling off. And then you can actually put it in a jar or a plate, or if you want to store it in the fridge, that's fine. And then you can put the icing after it cools completely. There are multiple ways you can add icing onto the cookies. The first way is just dipping the cookie into the icing. Make sure that your cookies are completely cooled before doing so. The second way is drizzling it with a spoon, drizzling the icing with a spoon slowly. And then the third way is putting the icing into a piping bag and then piping the icing onto the cookies. And that's it for today. I hope you guys really enjoyed this recipe. It's delicious, and be sure to actually check out our page, Instagram Notus Foods. I also have my own page. It's Sherri Bakery. And that's it for today.
And don't forget to grab yourself a copy of Dr. Wallach's Cooking Without the Bad Foods. It is a traditional cookbook that has been rewritten without the bad foods, especially gluten and no oil. It is 300 pages jammed with recipes and a great textbook to follow. And don't forget to check us out on Instagram at Notus Foods. We do post a lot more gluten-free and oil-free recipes. And feel free to message us on there. It is a lot easier for us to contact you. Thank you.